Hey everyone, it's Cody. Right here, right now, I'm going to be giving you the exact things you need to know if you're a tenant and you're looking to have a landlord rent to you. I'm a landlord myself, and there's a ton of things that I'm looking for, and a lot of the tenants that I talk to go about this process the absolutely wrong way. There's a lot of red flags that come up from a lot of tenants, and it's my job here on this video to give you some tips as to how you can approach the process to instill confidence in the landlord so that they will actually want to rent to you. Let's jump into it. So what brought this whole thing about and the idea behind this video is I recently put a place up for rent that we had just recently remodeled. We had the tenant, they moved out, and the place needed some fix up. It's kind of a weird place as it is, but it really needed some love. You know, the floors were outdated, the walls are not great, the paint's kind of chipping, the bathroom needed some love. It really just needed some help all the way around. So we put in new floors, we updated the kitchen, we put in a new toilet, cleaned up the bathroom really nice, basically just put this place into a really good spot and listed it for rent. Now, when I first put this place up for rent, I had over 100 different people reach out to me asking if this place was available. And right off the bat, there was red flags coming left and right from these tenants who were inquiring on the property. So like I said, I'm gonna give you some tips right here as to how to actually get the landlord to rent you. If you've got a nice place and you actually wanna rent it and you're actually interested, you wanna follow these steps because it's gonna make the process so much easier, and it's gonna give you a way better chance of having the landlord rent to you as opposed to somebody else. I find this very often, especially when you've got a really nice place and it's priced well and the rent is really affordable for what you can find in the market. It's gonna go quick, and the landlord wants the best tenant in there that they can possibly find. I know a lot of landlords, and I even do this myself, who will list the property at market rent or even below market rent, and they want to get a very good tenant in the property. It's not about maximizing the rent, it's about having the right person in the property that's actually gonna take care of it. So the first thing I wanna put on our list here is that you need to read the entire description. The reason I bring this up is because oftentimes landlords will put all of the information that you actually need to know in the description. So go through, read the description, read how much the rent is, read how much the security deposit is, read if there's pets allowed, read what the application fee is or what the application process is. You need to read this stuff on the actual description, because as a landlord, there's nothing more frustrating than having somebody reach out and then ask,
hey, what's the rent for this place?
You know, it's like, did you even read the thing? Like, come on guys, like read the description, follow the rules that the landlord has put in place. You know, we're not here to hold your hand through this process. If you're actually serious about this and you actually want to rent the place, read the dang description. It's gonna give you everything you need to know about when it's available, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and it's gonna give you a head start on everybody else. Now, the next thing I've got to add in here is that if you inquire on the property, if you actually call the landlord, you text them, you send them a message on Facebook Marketplace, whatever the case may be, if you send them a message and you inquire on it, you need to respond and communicate with the landlord. Like I said, I had over 100 people actually reach out to me on this one particular place that I put out, and probably at least 50 of them never even responded after I replied and said, yes, it is available. Do you have questions? 50% of them never even responded. So there's nothing more frustrating than that. Don't inquire if you're not actually serious about the place. You have to respond, you have to communicate, and you have to do it in a timely manner as well. Moving on, once you've actually inquired on the property, you want to ask them what their procedure is. What is their process for filling out the application? What's their process for getting additional information like photos, videos, a 3D scan or walkthrough? You want to get that information right up front. Ask the landlord for this if they haven't already provided it on the description, because most landlords will have this, and they're going to try to provide, I should say most good landlords are going to have this information already, and they're going to provide it to you right up front because they want to get this place rented as soon as possible, and they want to minimize the amount of work that they actually have to do. So ask them what their process is, ask them how you fill out the application, ask them when and how you can actually go look at the place. Some landlords do self-guided tours where you can just show up, get the keys, and actually take a tour around by yourself. Other times the landlord's going to want to meet you there. I always like to meet people there, but there's a couple steps that you need to know before we get to that point. Real quick guys, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to this channel where I talk about all things real estate, money, finance, self-employment, and entrepreneurship. I'd love for you to be a part of the community and check out some of my future videos. So subscribe, give me a thumbs up here in the video, and let's get back to it. All right, so you've gone through the process of actually reading the description. You're ahead of 50% of the game now, and you've inquired on the property and you've started communicating with the landlord specifically. Now, when I talk about this video here, I'm actually talking about private landlords mainly. Property managers or even like apartment managers, the rules here that I'm describing are gonna apply very much the same, but this is specific for private landlords. If you're looking to rent a house, a duplex or something like that, you're very likely going to be dealing with a private landlord or a property manager. So you want to make sure you do these things so you have the best chance of getting that place, especially if it's a good deal, especially if it's a nice home in a good area. All right, so as I was saying, you've gone through, you've read the description, and you're already ahead of 50% of the game by doing this. You've now opened a line of communication with the landlord, and you're ready to actually start talking details about the place and how to move forward. You're way ahead of the game at this point, but there's still some things you need to do. The next thing I want to point out is that if you're in a unique situation where, maybe you've got not the best credit, or you're in between jobs, or you don't have a ton of money for a security deposit or this or that, if you open that line of communication with your the future potential landlord, just be honest with them, guys. Don't start making excuses. Don't try to justify your situation. Don't try to say, well, yeah, I had the money, but then I got robbed and this and that. No, that's all bullshit. Right? Don't try to justify it. Don't try to make excuses. It's only going to raise red flags for the landlord. They're not going to want to deal with that crap. They don't want to hear it. They want to know that you have a solid job. You have a solid income. You've got good credit, you pay your bills, right? That's what they're really looking for. And hopefully you're that type of person. If you've had some struggles, I get it. Those things happen, those things come up, and it's gonna be there. But what you really need to focus on is instilling that confidence in the landlord to say, look, I pay my bills, I know what I'm doing, I'm just on a rough time. Just give it to them straight. Say, yeah, I'm in between jobs right now. My last job wasn't working out, but I'm getting a new one. But hey, I've got the money for the deposit and the rent. That's not gonna be an issue. I start my new job next week. Don't make excuses. Don't try to justify your situation. Just give it to them straight. Let them decide. If it's bad enough, yeah, you might get turned down, and that sucks. That sucks, but it's not gonna, you're not helping yourself by trying to make excuses or justifying your situation. By doing this, it's gonna give that landlord the confidence that they're actually looking for, because they wanna know that you can pay the rent on time and that you're gonna actually take care of the property. At this point, the landlord is going to want to work with you. They're going to want to rent to you, and it's so important. For me as a landlord, when I have these tenants reach out to me and they're actually communicating and they're saying, yeah, here's our situation, and they're good tenants, you can tell right off the bat if it's going to be a good fit or not. So you want to really have that trust and that confidence in the relationship, from just a few messages back and forth or a phone call. You really want to have that trust there so that you can move forward in confidence and know that it's going to be a good landlord-tenant relationship. All right, now next up, the absolutely most important thing that you can have when you go to your new landlord is to provide them with a previous or current landlord reference. This is absolutely one of the most crucial points of information that I look for when I'm looking at renting to a new tenant, because I want to call up their landlord. I want to say, hey, I'm making sure that these tenants aren't being evicted, I'm making sure that they pay rent on time, and I'm making sure that they take care of the property and don't cause an issue. If I can get another landlord to tell me that, that's the absolute gold standard. I love when they tell me that. They say, no, they're not getting evicted, they always pay on time, they've never caused a problem. I don't even really care about a lot of the other facts at that point. If I can get an honest opinion from a current landlord, that's really all I care about. On top of that, this is way more important to me personally than even a job reference. I don't really care if I call your job and they say, yeah, you're employed and you're making, 16 bucks an hour or whatever. That's important. I want to make sure that you're making money, but having a landlord reference who says, yes, they pay on time and they've never caused an issue, that shows me that regardless of what happens with your job, you're going to be able to pay your rent on time. Just because you make a lot of money at your job, or just because you do side work and you get paid cash or whatever, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a good tenant. Just because you have the money doesn't mean you're a good tenant. I want to have a very specific current landlord reference that I can get some good information off of. And like I said, you want to have that handy and you want to have it ready to go. So notify your current or previous landlord, hey, I'm looking for a place to rent. I'm going to have the new landlord reach out to you. And if you could, please give me a good reference, right? I've really enjoyed my time here at your place, but it's time for me to move on to the next place. I'd really hope that you would give me a good reference for the new landlord. And when you go to that new landlord, actually encourage them to call your current landlord. There's nothing more powerful than saying, look, I don't have anything to hide. I'm a clean slate here, I'm a good tenant, call my landlord, get that reference. It's gonna be super helpful for you, and it's gonna really help you out in getting that place for rent. Next on our list, make sure to fill out the application first. You wanna make sure you fill out the application. Many landlords have moved to online applications. Now the cool thing with this is they're quick, easy, and efficient, and the best part is there's no fee to start these. You know, a lot of the major services, like Landlord, for instance, is what I use, they don't charge a fee to just start the application. The first part of the application is where you can insert your landlord reference, your job reference, answer a couple questions about you, input information about any pets or vehicles that you may have, and it's just information you're providing to the landlord. So you want to make sure you do this first, especially if the new landlord is requiring it before showing you the place. Start the application. Don't be afraid to do it. You know, if you're going to get disqualified, you're going to get disqualified anyway, but you're not going to have a chance unless you actually fill it out. For me personally, I require that every single person fills out an application before I will show them the place in person. The reason why, if I haven't had them fill out an application first, they're probably not going to show up. In fact, I get about 25% of people to show up to these showings. It's absolutely ridiculous how many people will no-show on you after asking to come look at your place for rent. So I've just absolutely stopped doing it because people don't show up, and it's ridiculous. Once I switched to actually having these people fill out the application first, my show up rate to these in-person showings actually increased to right around 90%. And yes, I do actually keep track of these things. I want to know how long, how often, how many showings I need to have before I get that place rented. It's important to know your numbers as a landlord here. But jumping back to it, yes, I have over 90% of people actually show up once they've committed and they filled out the application. It takes 5 minutes, guys. Don't be lazy. Fill out the application if you're serious. If you're not serious, don't waste your time. Don't waste the landlord's time. Don't be messing around. You know, be serious about this. And as a landlord, the beautiful thing about this is it gives me an opportunity to verify your information before showing it to you. You know, if you're gonna not be qualified for this place, I at least then have the opportunity to disqualify you before wasting our time and you looking at it. I mean, if you don't qualify in the first place, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. It doesn't matter if the layout works or if the bedroom's big enough for you. It doesn't matter. If you don't qualify, you don't. And so just fill out the application, save time for yourself and save time for the landlord. You're gonna get to that credit and background check later. That's where you generally pay the fee. Check with your landlord on who's gonna pay this, when it's due, and just know, especially on the online applications, to start the application, there's generally no fee to do this. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's a landlord sniffing out a bad tenant. Yes, guys, I know that's cheesy, but landlords can smell a bad tenant coming from miles away. When you go to view the place, don't act sketchy. Don't say you're gonna take it right as you walk in the front door. Actually look around, make sure the space is gonna work for you. Don't start making excuses about your situation or asking if they'll work with you on the deposit or anything like that. You know, take care of that stuff beforehand. So when you show up, actually go and look at the place, make sure you check out every single room, every single nook and cranny. Ask the landlord if they do have, if you've got any questions so they can answer them, but don't act sketchy. Don't show up with people that don't need to be there. You know, when you show up, just be professional about it. This is a business transaction, so you want to make sure that you're professional about it. It's going to give you a better image, and it's going to give you a better chance of that landlord trusting you and wanting to rent to you. And last but not least, make sure not to seem desperate. There's nothing worse than a desperate tenant. I know that there's people out there who need help, and I'm all for second chances. In fact, I've done that many times for tenants that I've rented to, given second chances and stuff, but you've got to be honest, you've got to be upfront. Don't try to make excuses or justify. With that being said, guys, that wraps up the video here. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. I hope this was helpful for you. Give me a thumbs up if it was, and I'll catch you in the next one.